Hi, I'm Jessie Budzinski, and I'm the Assistant Department Chair of the Human Services Department. And I'm here today with Nyah Garner, and she is going to talk to us a little bit about her journey at PG and where she's heading next. So, Nyah, if you don't mind, just first start by sharing the degree you're about to graduate with and when your graduation is.
I am in the Bachelor's of Child and Family Human Services with administration concentration as well. I actually get to turn in the last of all of my things tonight, and then I'm
Woohoo!
done.
That's awesome. When is your graduation date?
The official graduation date is the 1st of May, I think. I can't
Okay,
remember the
okay.
exact date, but yeah, coming up.
That's super exciting. So, can you just tell us a little bit about your educational journey here at PG and also kind of how you got here?
Yeah. I originally went to a local community college in my area, got my associates in psychology there, just because it was local. I was working full time at that point then, and was really needing something flexible and was pretty confident in where I wanted to go in my career. So I knew I wanted something human services, social work kind of focused. I had had a couple friends that had actually been attending PG
Oh,
already.
nice.
So I'd heard about it, kind of just word of mouth. People really liked it. It seemed really flexible, and they were really happy with the education they were getting, which is hard to find sometimes in online programs.
Yeah, that's great.
Um, so yeah, I ended up here and went into the human services degree program, and I've really enjoyed it so far.
That's awesome. And this is not a question I gave you ahead of time, but I am curious because the administration concentration in our department is not one of the more popular ones. So I'm just kind of curious what led you in that direction. And I mean, I think that would be good for other students to hear from someone who, has taken those courses.
Yeah. I knew that I would not want to be in direct, client facing positions forever. I
Yep.
kind of knew I wanted to be more in that macro scale of things. Um, so it was kind of an obvious choice for me to go into that. I have found the balance is really helpful because you don't
Hmm.
really ever get to those administrative positions without having that one-on-one experience working with
Right.
clients first and most of these jobs. Um, so the program has been really well tailored to kind of both aspects of that, of kind of helping me gain the clientele facing skills that I would need, but kind of prepping me and giving me a lot more knowledge in the more long-term career goal that I have.
That's great. That's great to hear that. So do you mind telling us what your long-term career goal is?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I am looking at grad programs currently. Have not made any choices yet, but I'm kind of looking into public health, which
Great.
kind of seems like a stretch from where I'm at now. But um, I definitely think that human services has a lot of knowledge that needs to be put in other spaces that currently
Absolutely.
is not.
Hmm.
And so I think, social determinants of health and just all the barriers that people face, there's a lot of knowledge there that can be brought into other spaces. So my goal really is to kind of bring that knowledge into the public health space and just kind of open up people's eyes about how many social barriers there are to somebody's health long term, and those things, you don't get taught that in medical school, so you got to have somebody
Right.
else to come in and help kind of acknowledge all of those issues and barriers that are significant and
Absolutely.
not going away anytime soon.
Absolutely. And I love to hear you say that because I do think probably for students who are not maybe on a macro path or an administration path, it might seem like a stretch, public health, but it's really not a stretch. I mean,
Yeah,
that's where we should be.
yeah, absolutely.
100%. So yeah, so I love hearing you say that. And just, if we have new students who are coming in who are listening to this, it might just open their eyes to kind of some possibilities, which is
Yeah.
one of the reasons we're doing this. So that's awesome. What about, did you have a favorite class or a class that had, some lasting impact for you?
There's so many classes that I have actually really enjoyed. I would say there was like a public policy class that I took
Okay.
where it was really focused on like grant writing,
Hmm.
which I found super, super interesting because that's something you hear about all the time in this field.
Yep.
And I see most professionals just kind of having to learn as you go.
Yes.
So that
Yep.
was something really, really helpful to learn about before working in the field
Good.
fully. Um, I am taking my last class, juvenile justice, alongside my capstone this term, and it's been super, super interesting. My professor has been awesome. And
Good.
just the conversations that have come from this class are really, really, I think, important. And I think, again, we're kind of taking it out of the scope of just juvenile justice, and a lot of the
Good.
conversations have been grand scale systematic,
Yep.
and that's been really interesting. So I've really enjoyed that.
That's great. That's fantastic. What do you think, if you had to look back your time at Purdue, what are some things you could identify as things that helped you to persist?
Um, I, as I mentioned, I mean, I've worked full time the entire time I've been here, and been in college at all. Um, so the flexibility is huge, but time management comes with that as
Yep.
well.
Yep.
So I think just really learning how to schedule myself well, and stick to a schedule. I'm a total paper person, so I've created 1,000 little sheets and
Yep.
planners and all the things to keep track of everything for the week because it can get a lot to manage sometimes. Um, so really just up in my organizational skills, staying in contact all the time with your professors
Yep.
is so important. Like you truly cannot be afraid to reach out when you're at this level. So most of them have been so helpful and
Good.
have provided so much guidance. So I think really just keeping myself organized, but also really building relationship and communication with my professors has helped me when I'm struggling to keep up. They've been really good to say prioritize this, skip this, and there's been a lot of guidance there, which has been really helpful.
That's fantastic. And I think that's so important for students to hear because I do think there's this worry sometimes that you don't want to bother the instructor or ask too many questions, but
Yeah.
it's so important to ask as many questions as you can to reach out. I mean, that's what we're here for. So,
Yeah.
it's important to do that from the beginning as much as possible and as much as needed. So, super important. That's a great reminder. What about advice? Could you think of any, say there's a student who's just coming in, who's watching this video, any advice that you'd want to share?
I would kind of just go along the lines of what we just said. I mean,
Yeah.
just communicate with your peers and your professors. And so many of my professors that I've had here are working in the field currently or have had years of experience in it. And when you are in human services and there's just every program can be run totally different, every client is going to be different, it can be overwhelming to feel like you have to know everything.
Yep.
But just listening to the professors and their stories and the experience that they share has been so beneficial to me. Because they talk about hard topics, they talk about
Right.
burnout in the field and things like that, but also hearing how they adjust and how they combat that is really encouraging. So I would just say, yeah, be really open to hearing all of the non-textbook knowledge that you can
Yeah.
gain,
Yep.
and ask as many questions as possible because
Yeah.
that professional working knowledge is so, so helpful.
Yeah, and that's great advice. And that's one of the reasons why the majority of our faculty are adjuncts, which means that they're with us part-time, but
Yeah.
full-time they're all working in the field because we want them to bring that knowledge into the classroom and their experience is so diverse. So like you're saying, you're going to be able to grab pieces of information from all of these different
Hmm.
places and settings, which is so important. So I'm glad that you were able to do that. Is there anything else that you can think of that you want to share?
I don't think so. I don't think so.
Okay. Well, this has been great, and I know this will be so helpful for students who are coming in. I
Good.
appreciate this. Thanks, Nyah, and
Yeah.
congratulations.